Okay, y'all have been asking me to do this video for the longest time, and I always forget because the nigga is so boring that I don't even listen to him. He doesn't come up on my radar at all. At least, with Kendrick, he gets forced into conversation, right? So, like, for example, the new Busta Rhymes album, like, they're using Kendrick, obviously, to appeal to the young casuals, right? That's fine. But that's the thing about Kendrick. His shit is forced more, right? In terms of him being a GOAT and all that. And that's why I did that video even like 2 years ago, just telling you how bullshit that was. And I've always even felt that. The funny thing is that, in a way, it took me a while to even make that video or even think of the idea of doing it because it's something I said online and forums and stuff like way back in the day. I always thought Kendrick was kind of weak. It didn't become really obvious to me until right before Good Kid, Mad City, where the promotion started to go into hyperdrive and people were calling it classic before it even came out. And I was like, wait, what the fuck is going on? So that's why Kendrick stuff, I had to make that video because it was just getting ridiculous. You know what I mean? Cole, on the other hand, is not someone that is out here, talking about he a GOAT and all that shit. So I at least can give him a pass. He's just trash to me personally. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, I'm upset that he's out here in the same way that Kendrick upsets me, right? Because again, it's all about what you claim and what sort of your take is on this hip hop shit and where you rank. Because like I've said, when you are a whack rapper and you and the industry is trying to prop you up to GOAT levels, you water down the culture. You actually fuck the game up. This is exactly what happened with Wayne and Eminem and Kanye, right? Like, when you are looked at as being like the best to ever do it or one of the best to ever do it, when in fact you're actually kind of trash, that's a serious problem. It needs to be called out. J. Cole, he ain't really, doing that. So this is why I'm kind of like, it's not the biggest deal for me to say any of this shit about J. Cole. But let me break down J. Cole's thing, right? The first time I ever heard J. Cole was back in maybe like 2007 or something like that. Whatever it was, I think it was like Young Simba or some shit. There was a video of him. I think he was like walking through a street and he was rapping, and it was something to do with the Lion King. And I just remember being like, this is the corniest shit I've ever seen. Oh my God. And you know what I mean? Like, I didn't get it. But, again, at the time, I now understand it because, again, hip hop has become really kiddified. And that's the wave. It's become really kiddified. And that's because of, Wayne and Kanye to a certain degree. And, of course, Eminem. It's very kid-oriented, right? And it wasn't like that in our era because in our era, we weren't, like, trying to be kids. If anything, we were trying to be grown. So there was a certain maturity that hip hop artists had to have to even be recognized as being dope. Whereas with especially Wayne had that look. He looked like a kid, and he talked about kid shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he talked about eating pussy or whatever, and that that appeals to little kids in a kid way, right? Like in a sort of immature way. So when J. Cole came out with the Young Simba thing, I just was like, huh? Like, who does that? Like, what's the whole Lion King reference thing? And that's a little lame, but it gathered some steam. I think the thing for me that I didn't like about J. Cole, and I'm going to get into it, was obviously I didn't like his delivery. I didn't think that he could really rap. I mean, there's a video online. It's not really a video, but a freestyle which he does over the On and On beat from Missy. And it's trash. Like, it's literally like really dull and boring. And that was when Cole was actually like better, quote unquote, right? But the problem with Cole has always been to me two major things. Again, I break it down. It's the production and the voice slash flow. Whenever I talk about flow, I'm always really talking about like the vocal presence, how they project themselves on the song, the confidence, and of course how they fit the flow, the rhythm of their voice, and how it creates a groove. And I find that J. Cole's delivery was never strong. It just wasn't. It was always very weak to me. And that was an issue with me from the get-go. It was weak back then, and it's still weak. If anything, it's gotten weaker. But I will say to J. Cole's credit, I think his pen has gotten stronger. And I think he's figured out that, look, at the end of the day, like, I gotta step my fucking pen up to a certain degree, or else I'm not even gonna be mentioned. But let me get to that, right? So J. Cole came in with that Young Simba shit, whatever, and then he did like a bunch of mixtapes. Those mixtapes, Friday Night Lights, all that shit, again, I was around when all that dropped. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was to some of the younger listeners who were probably in college at the time, and I respect that and I understand that. But my big issue with that is, again, you're not rhyming on original production, right? You are essentially you are using old Timbaland, Erykah Badu records to sort of put yourself in front of them as like you are the kid that is bringing back those days or those memories. And that was like kind of like, you know, it's a little fake to me personally. You know what I mean? Like, again, as an artist, if you're really an artist, like you love the old shit, but you want to do something new, right? I'm a writer. There's certain things I love, right? But even if I was a rapper, like I wouldn't dick ride the past. Like I would want to take it forward. I'd be like, okay, this was what was cool and I really loved and is in my DNA. But the reason I'm here is because I want to bring it to a certain place. I want to take it forward. I don't just want to go backwards and regress. And I found that was my issue with J. Cole. He just was regressive to me. Like, a lot of those songs he did in Too Deep for the Intro, that's an old beat. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how can I give you points for spitting on an old Erykah Badu beat? Really? And it's not like you killed the shit, you know what I'm saying, and did something amazing with it. You just put yourself in that shit. A lot of those, like, mixtape joints were just Cole putting himself in the Jay-Z category, right? Over a Jay-Z beat. Or an old Timbaland beat. You know, especially around that time when, again, there was a demand for it, I guess. Looking back, you know, that need... because, you know, Soulja Boy had made things really, really kiddie as well with Lil Wayne, and they had moved in a different direction production-wise. And I think a lot of old heads were kind of like sad at where the game was going, and they wanted to see a newer rapper that reflected their values and what they grew up on. So it was kind of like a pandering project, right? So you're pandering to some of the older cats that quote unquote grew up on that shit. While also saying to the new kids, like, I'm a kid, I'm just like you, but I love the classics, right? I didn't like that. I thought that was lame. Funny enough, he has a freestyle called "Knocking on Wood" freestyle that's like, you know, one of the better songs he ever came out with, in my opinion. Over the Kanye Go beat on Common's album, which was to me the best beat Kanye did on that album. But that's beside the point. So I never really liked his delivery, and I think that the way he came to the game was very disingenuous. I mean, here's a guy that was basically co-signed by Jay-Z, who's the biggest rapper on the planet. I mean, like, it's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that just because you're co-signed by someone doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to work as a rapper and you're going to have a career. But come on, I mean, that's a major leg up. Let's not even pretend like it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at fucking Kendrick and shit. Like, Kendrick has a career because of the Dre and Snoop and all that West Coast cosign shit, right? And all the cosigns that him and the industry paid for throughout the way, right? Like, that cosign shit is a huge deal, right? Let's not underestimate how important that stuff is. Anybody that does, it's like, you're not paying attention to that. You're opening that new artist up to the old person's fans. I mean, Jay-Z's got millions of fans, right? So when you co-sign an artist like J. Cole was co-signed, that's automatically like a gazillion fans who are already like, okay, well, let me see what you got. And that's a huge leg up, massive leg up. So anyway, J. Cole comes through, he does the whole mixtape thing. I always thought his delivery was very soft and stuff, and it makes sense because he kind of went the R&B route. He's an R&B rapper, right? J. Cole, right? Jermaine Cole. Sounds like some R&B ass name anyway. And he came through, he did his mixtape thing. I remember it, but it wasn't working. And then he kind of had the that look on Blueprint 3 with Jay, I think A Star Is Born or something like that. And that was kind of whatever. Again, major look. And he still wasn't like the guy to me. I think what started to blow him up was when he did that song with Drake. Shout out to Drizzy. And all the Drizzy haters out here. Drake is out here making careers, bruh. You know, whether you like it or not. You know, without Drake, there is no Kendrick, there's no J. Cole. I mean, there's no A$AP Rocky even to a certain extent, but, you know, we'll get into all that at some later stage. So he did the song In the Morning. I don't know if y'all remember that. And then that kind of, put JCole on the, gave him a little more access. And, he first comes out with Workout as his official single, which, I thought was straight garbage. You know what I mean? But again, that's J. Cole, man. That's pop trash. Just can't get enough. All that stuff is like R&B pop. And look, there's nothing wrong with making that music. But again, it's not aimed at me. It's not aimed at hip hop fans. It's aimed at casuals, right? And R&B chicks, right? And again, nothing wrong with that. But we can't put you in that conversation. We can't even talk about your stuff hip hop wise because it's not for you. It's not for us. You know what I mean? Like LL Cool J made R&B stuff. He made stuff for ladies and stuff, but it was hip hop stuff. It's for me. I listened to some of those records. Doing it. It's classic. I don't care what age you are. That's an amazing record. I'm Gonna Love You Better. That's an amazing record. It has an R&B-ish edge to it. It's still hip hop as fuck. And that's my point. Like, there is a difference. You know what I mean? Like J. Cole, when he makes his shit, it's very sort of like, this flow is very sleepy. Right? It's sing-songy, right? Sing-songy shit. And again, rappers have sang on beats before. So someone, before you come up with that, oh, well, when KRS-One sang whatever on records, like, was that hip-hop? Yes, it was. Okay? Because rappers been doing it. Nas sang on records. You know what I'm saying? I think he even has a line, like, was the first rapper to sing on some TJ Swan shit or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But when Nas did it, there was a certain aggression and certain delivery to it that made it hip hop. When J. Cole does it, it's R&B-ish, and you can tell. You know what I mean? It doesn't have that, that heart, that energy and aggression to it, right? So that's kind of my issue with J. Cole. I find that his voice is just so sleepy. His beats are very boring to me. They remind me of like college dropout era Kanye, and I think that's kind of what he was going for. But the problem with his beats is that they don't really knock. And so this shit is NyQuil, man. Like, now, there's a couple of beats that he did that are okay. Like, Nobody's Perfect. I remember always saying that, like, that was the strongest J. Cole song I'd ever heard. And I still think it's J. Cole's strongest song, arguably. The one that he did with Miguel, Power Trip, I think, was also a strong beat. I think that was pretty decent. The verses on either of them are not shits I ever play. I don't even play those songs, period. But I do like those beats. I think those beats are pretty decent. They're not like super special. Again, they remind me of something that Timbaland would have made back then. It's interesting that obviously Nobody's Perfect had Missy. Again, it was like that time when he was really trying to do the Timbaland thing. Bring back that Aaliyah vibe and cosign that shit. But in general, I find that J. Cole's production is just not my cup of tea. It's just too slow. And I'm not sure why he handles all the production himself. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it works for his image. Don't get me wrong. For him to do most of the production, it seems more of like, it comes from an everyman honest place when you do all that shit. And again, it's the Kanye thing, so I get it. But it doesn't work for me. But, to be fair, if he had harder beats, it would expose how boring his delivery is. So you might as well just keep it soft and R&B-ish. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of his shit is like classic. I don't think he's remotely made any like classic songs or any of that shit. I think he's just a good, artist for his time in terms of what, the average casual might like. But I don't think he's really putting out anything crazy or ever has put out anything crazy. I do think his pen has gotten a little bit better. I listened to the song he had called, I think, 1985 or something like that. That had some bars. There was a song he did that was talking about the tax system or something like that, or in taxes. He has better bars than Kendrick Lamar. Let's be honest here. You know what I'm saying? Kendrick Lamar just gets a little more props for me because I do think that Kendrick Lamar has better production. And Kendrick Lamar is a little bit more experimental, so I will give him credit for that compared to J. Cole. But pen-wise, J. Cole, I think, is a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. J. Cole will say some shit. It's just that the delivery in which he says it is like not my cup of tea at all. So there you have it, man. You might not be the only person that thinks this dude sucks. It's honestly, man, like there's certain things when I listen to artists, I can just pick up on pretty much right away. But again, I've been listening to hip hop for a very long time. So, and I listened to stuff when I was close to the peak of hip hop culture, right? Like when I was an active listener, shit was people were dropping classics almost left, right, and center, and I was in the midst of that shit. So, it's not hard for me to kind of see where people stack up in the grand scheme of things, right? It may be harder sometimes for newer people coming in, but even that might not be true either, because I do think that records that are great speak for themselves. And that's why I encourage you as if you're a newer listener to this, don't feel that because, you just started listening to hip hop that you can't possibly know hip hop. I've talked to OGs, and OGs have said to me personally, like, look, listen, even me as a younger cat might actually have a better read on what really holds up because I'm divorced from it, right? Like, a cat who grew up, it was a grown ass man in the 70s and 80s might think so and so record is classic because they danced with the club, whereas I might be looking at it being like, this record doesn't really hold up, right? So don't be afraid to express your opinion. Now, of course, you should do your homework and you should actually really care and try to listen to it and see, why do people like the song, or does this make me feel good, or does it hit me? But in general, I think that a lot of stuff, when time passes, you start to really see it. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me even at that time, but especially as time goes on, you start to see like, oh yeah, this didn't quite work. Like, all this time has passed. What's the JCole album that people are going to say, yo, that was a great album? I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? It's all kind of weak. Like, let's be real here. You know what I mean? Like, none of those albums are really classic. None of them stand out. You ask a J. Cole fan, what's J. Cole's best shit? What are his best songs? You're going to get a whole range of fucking answers. Right? And to me, that shows a guy that's kind of just dropping mediocrity all the time. Whereas, like, for example, again, you ask a Nas fan, a Ghostface fan, what's their best work? We know what their best work is. It doesn't mean that they haven't dropped amazing work before and after that, but it's very clear because it's clear what makes them great, right? That's how they're able to have best works. When you have rappers that don't have best works, a lot of the times, or it's not really clear, that's a sign that that rapper is not that dope. They just were dropping trash, really, probably, the entire time. And they coasted on that. So, yeah, man, a little longer video for today because I've been out for a little while, I guess, trying to catch up and give you all that signs. Yeah, man, it ain't personal, don't get mad. But if you get mad, holla at me, you know what I mean? Feel free to leave your comment, you know what I mean? Do what you gotta do. All right, y'all. Be good.